Calaveras County, and welcome to Tammy's Window on Calaveras County. I'm Mike Taylor. I'm pinch hitting for Tammy, who couldn't be here for this particular show, but she'll be with you next time. I've got a couple of really cool guests here. The first one, the one who'll do most of the talking, I hope, is Mark Graham. And Mark, you're here with Spike. Spike, and what does Spike do? It's very interesting.
Spike is a certified bed bug dog. He's a bed bug detection dog.
Okay.
A bed bug specialist.
And how does a canine get into the bed bug detection business?
Well, he gets found at a rescue shelter and determined if he has the temperament and mental acuity and just the excited attitude. Mm-hmm. He's picked for training, and he's brought in and assessed, and then if it's determined that he's well suited to it, he'll go through 600 to 800 hours of training.
Oh my gosh.
To become a certified bed bug detection dog.
Wow.
It's quite a lot of training, and after he's certified and trained, he has to go through a regular basis of recertification and retraining.
Okay. Is that done annually, or?
Actually, every 3 months.
Oh, okay.
You can, and then an annual certification along with that.
Okay. Now, you actually train dogs to sniff for all kinds of things, correct?
Yeah, canines. You know, we've been using them as tools and friends since we were living in the caves. Mm-hmm. And with their olfactory system, they can smell so much more than you and I. When you walk into your mother's house and you smell a cake baking, Spike smells the yeast, the eggs, the flowers, the sugar, the butter.
All as separate things,
separately.
Right? Wow.
Depending on which talking head you talk to. Their olfactory systems, humans are dominated by our visual cortex. Mm-hmm. Dogs are dominated by their olfactory cortex. Their nose drives their world.
Okay.
The future's on the ground and in the air. The future and the past is on the ground for the most part. But they can smell just about anything you want to train them to, from truffles to cell phones.
Now, how do you teach a dog like Spike to go sniff out bed bugs? I know that bed bugs do have kind of a peculiar odor all their own that I guess us humans can smell. Thankfully, I haven't had to smell it.
Actually, yes, we can smell them in large enough concentrations. However, a properly trained and maintained bed bug dog can generally pick up one bed bug at 20 feet.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
They'll tell you if they're there, and it's like with any other training with our wave detection dogs, bed bugs, mold, this kind of thing. We use food as a training tool, although other areas of training, bird dog, law enforcement, this kind of thing, we use a toy or a ball-driven toy or a tool. But we use food, and he's working for food.
Okay.
And yeah, you just simply train them to the smell of bed bugs.
Okay.
And we do use live bed bugs for training. Mm-hmm. They're not trained to smell dead bed bugs or passed on. You want the live ones. You want to know if he's there.
Or the discarded exoskeletons or anything like that.
No,
you want the live ones.
You want the live bed bugs.
Sure.
You don't want him to hammer on anything else.
I guess I'll go right to the meat of that matter. What's the most peculiar place that Spike has discovered bed bugs?
Well, you know, I've seen more bed bugs in five-star establishments than two.
Oh my gosh.
Movie theaters. And a public bathroom.
Okay.
But listen, bed bugs are everywhere.
They are.
We stopped using Duraspan and DDT for good reason way back in the last century, and those were the two significant effective poisons against them. Mm-hmm. Now pretty much there are some chrysanthemum-based poisons available, but you pretty much got to freeze them or heat them.
I was going to say they use extreme heat or extreme cold to get rid of them, and they will almost like termites tent your house and heat it up, right?
Correct.
If you've got that bad an infestation.
Correct. 140 degrees for a number of hours.
Oh my gosh. Now, how does Spike signal to you that he's discovered his quarry?
He'll do a passive alert. He'll simply sit down.
Oh, okay.
And look at me and say, "Pay me."
Bring on the snacks.
Bring on the snacks.
What's the
exactly.
favored snack for Spike?
I use for my purposes. I use the same snack that he eats. His kibbles. His
okay.
lunch.
Great.
He doesn't really care as long as he's getting something to eat.
That's right.
And he appreciates a tug on the ear once in a while.
Now, with well, actually, how old is Spike? Spike
is about 2.5 now.
Okay. And just kind of a Heinz 57? And
yeah,
it sounds like
he's pretty much a
shelter
Heinz
dog.
57. I work with an organization called Florida Canine Academy in Safety Harbor, Florida. It's in North Tampa Bay. And he gets almost all of his dogs from rescue shelters on the East Coast, mostly Florida.
Okay.
Every dog needs a job, and you don't have to have papers.
Yeah, that's true.
And oftentimes, the Duke's mixture is the best. Their temperament is the easiest. They have usually the best health issues. They don't have a lot of the health problems that follow particular breeds.
Yeah, the purebreds get into all the hip problems and or this, that, or the other thing.
Yeah.
Now, as you're going through the training with Spike, do you go through several different kinds of smells and no, we don't want you to go after that one, we want you to go after this one, or do you just use those bed bugs?
No, we'll use a variety of scents to throw him off, but he learns, and as every dog will, learn real quick that bed bug smell will get him fed.
I see.
It will get him his reward that he's looking for.
Pavlov and his dog.
Pavlov, exactly. Hey, it works for dogs and kids.
That's right. Except you can't get kids to point out the bugs, right?
Not very often. If you do, it's usually in their hair.
That's right. Now, when you go out to visit, are you predominantly going to residential homes or commercial establishments? Let's say, we hear in the news media, about hotels, and lately, like you touched on, movie theaters.
It's a variety of targets, everything from schools to movie theaters to cabs.
Okay.
They are opportunistic feeders. And they don't need long to feed.
And they only feed on us. That's the other
thing that's interesting. They only
so,
feed on humans.
Yeah, that is not Spike, but the bed bugs.
Right. Humans are the next best thing, yes.
Yeah. And so you come in to detect them. Do you work with particular exterminators?
I have a partnership here in California with Terminex in Southern California. But I lease my dogs to private clients. There is a company in San Francisco that I highly recommend called Scent Tech. Their number's available on the phone, and it's scenttech.com.
Okay.
And they use the same master trainer that I use, the same methods, the same training methods. They're a highly reputable company here in Northern California.
And you mentioned leasing out your dogs. So are you not always with Spike? Is that?
With Spike, yes. Right now, I've almost turned this one into my pet. But no, I have other dogs that I lease out to private clients.
Okay. And just by virtue of their training, that client can take the dog into, say, a house, and the dog will just automatically kind of go doing what he or she is trained to do?
We provide a handler with that dog.
Oh, you do?
Or
okay.
training for a handler of their choice.
I see.
And then the dog, yes, the dog doesn't care who he's working for necessarily, as long as he gets along with it, as long as he's getting to work and he's getting that kibble.
Getting that treat at the end. Does it take him a long time? I mean, as soon as he walks into a house, will he go right to a bedroom and here they are? Or?
Depending on the degree of infestation, I have had dogs that have stopped me at the threshold of the door.
Oh man!
But no, you can generally a good handler and his dog team can inspect a home thoroughly in 30 to 45 minutes, and that's an average home of say 2,200 square feet.
Okay.
Yeah, you're not playing poker yet there. You can generally do a hotel room in 3 minutes, versus a manual search by a human can take hours.
Oh yeah, because you have to very closely inspect.
Exactly.
To look for the signs.
And statistically, and insurance companies have looked at this, to understand the cost and the implications. A human inspection can take hours and is generally 30% effective, whereas a dog's nose can take 2 to 3 minutes and is 95% effective.
Goodness gracious. Now, what are some of the other, I'll use the word peculiar, I'm not calling them peculiar, but some of the other scents that you're training dogs to go after?
Well, we've trained dogs for endangered sea turtles, exotic birds. There's a huge exotic bird smuggling issue,
Yes.
particularly on the East Coast in Florida. Been involved in training them for Burmese python work in Florida.
Oh, that's a
which is-
big problem down there.
Yes, yes. Been involved with seizure dogs, training for seizures, diabetes, Addison's disease. I have worked with a dog that was involved in cancer research and cancer
Okay.
detection, which is has shown promise. More importantly, and you hear a lot, you'll hear about cancer dogs and this kind of thing. They are not using dogs to walk out into a room and screen a patient for cancer. They're not going to have a dog tell somebody that they might have a carcinoma or a melanoma. But what they are using, they have successfully used dogs taking breath samples from lung cancer patients and the dog analyzing the breath sample afterwards and having a better than 70% average of nailing the lung cancer patient. But more importantly, what that tells doctors and scientists is that those cancers produce off gases, produce volatile organic compounds, because if the dog can smell it, then the compound is there. And perhaps in the future they can find a way to either digitally or electronically or medicinally detect those compounds early, which would lead to an earlier cure or an earlier attack on the cancer. So although the dogs look promising, the reason they look promising is people don't quite understand.
Yeah, we haven't quite connected those dots yet,
As
with a lot of what's going on in cancer research. What is the sort of the working life for a dog that's using his or her nose like this?
Generally, a working dog, a scent-hound, a wave scent-hound will last about 10 years.
Okay.
Although I have a friend who has a terrier that is 16 years old and she's still going strong.
Still going at it.
A little Jack Russell mix.
Goodness. And are there particular, I know we've talked a little bit about, it being more the mixed breeds that are kind of better for this, but are there certain breeds that seem, or say dominant or predominant breed among that particular mix that is better at going after certain scents than others?
Beagles are very good, very smart. However, a beagle, if you have a beagle and a handler team, watch the handler. Beagles are so smart they will make the handler look stupid. They will train the handler to pay off.
Oh, really?
When there's something
Even
not there.
But I'll be darned.
Just about any dog with a nose. Now the pug-nosed breeds, French bulldog, this kind of thing. Of course, our olfactory system is more compact. But any dog with a good long nose will pretty much want to work and will smell. They smell in, by some estimates, depending on the breed, anywhere from parts per million to parts per trillion.
I've heard that.
Whereas you and I smell in parts per 10,000 or less.
Yeah.
Depending on your age, if you've smoked, whatnot, If you worked in a chemical plant,
Yeah.
shot your own olfactory system. But yeah, it's their nose that's working. Their vision is not that as acute as ours. They don't have as clear a color distinction as we do.
Okay.
But they have a nose that can follow you forever.
Yep. And it's going to pick up on, like you say, that one bed bug at 20 feet. That's pretty amazing.
Yes.
Now, have you, I know something else, it's kind of like the head lice stigma. Bed bugs, you mentioned you find them more often in 5-star hotels than you do in 2-star. There is no socioeconomic meter here, is there, for bed bugs?
No, bed bugs, in fact, the cleaner the environment, the better the bed bugs like it, because it's less intrusion, less competition.
Less work to get to where they need to.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, what inspired you to work with dogs that sniff out bed bugs? Was it the demand that we've seen recently?
The demand for one and the challenge.
Okay.
It was a peculiar idea at the time, and it's still a peculiar idea in most people's mind. Although it is much more common than people realize. There are more bed bug dogs out there than you would think.
Okay. Didn't realize that.
Yes, there are working bed bug dogs in just about every state of the union now,
I'll be darned. And
both in private and public sectors.
like we say, because that demand has come back up again because we're more limited in how we can treat the infestations. How long have you been working with dogs like this?
I've been working with dogs, scent hounds, since I was a kid. Started out with my granddad as training bird
Okay.
dogs, flushers. So I've been in and out of the canine world professionally for decades. It's a fun diversion.
Oh, I bet.
It's often more fun than working with people.
I can imagine that.
The dogs are easy, the people are hard.
That's right. That's right. Now, as you go through the training, do you start right out, here's the bed bugs, this is what we want you to go smell for, or how do you actually teach them that, this is what we want you to go after?
Pretty much you introduce them to a number of scents, and after working with canines for a while, you get to read their body language. They are, of course, nonverbal communicative, other than their barks. But you can read their body language, and you'll know when they've hit upon a scent because they are so nose-centered, and you'll see it and know it. And as soon as they've gotten a good whiff of what you want them, you feed them, and they make that association pretty quick.
Pretty quickly, okay.
About like a 1-year-old.
Okay.
You know that if I do this, I'm going to get fed. And then you simply repeat that over and over and over again. And of course, over a period of time, you make the finds harder to find, more difficult in their work. But it's all about the payoff.
Now, then I guess the other question, especially since we're going after something as I'll use the word nefarious as bed bugs, where do you train for something like this? You don't want to turn a bunch of bed bugs loose in your own home, do you? Or do you, since you know your dog is going to go find them?
I would not recommend it. We have training facilities,
Okay.
and most good handlers will have an isolated area dedicated for that purpose, and are trained in how to handle the bed bugs, which is it's a danger of the business, but you usually only make one mistake. You learn pretty quick after that.
Is the training pretty much the same regardless of what scent you're going after?
For the most part, yes, using the methods that I and my partners use, which is the food reward, yes. It is pretty much the same. What it does require is discipline and patience. Discipline and patience. You have to learn a lesson that goes out not only to dogs but to everything in the world, and that is what goes down the leash comes back up the leash.
Okay, and that's one of the things that I hear most often when you hear dog trainers talking about training dogs, because most dog owners think, I need to go get my dog trained, and actually what's happening is the owner is being trained how to deal with their dog.
Correct.
What's the biggest mistake that dog owners make in dealing with their dogs?
They fail to understand or remember that dogs cannot think like humans, but we can think like a dog. And oftentimes, it's the same mistake that we often make in our life in general. Kids, wives, work, whatever. We fail to pay enough attention and to spend some quiet time giving it some thought.
Yeah.
If your dog's giving you a problem, sit down with him for 15 minutes and just watch him.
Yeah. Well, even before we started filming today, Spike was getting not agitated or irritated, anything like that, but he was making what I would call some light whine noises, and you said that's just because it's a stressful environment.
Exactly.
It's a different place.
He's working out his emotions, saying, okay, where am I and why am I here?
And then actually I had to laugh because you said he wants to go smell for something. So.
Yeah, he's in this environment. He sees couches, chairs, an open environment. He says, well, it's time to go to work.
Well, I bet everyone here at the studio is glad that he didn't sit down right away.
Yeah, and you would have I'd have got a pretty quick indication. If I'd have said I'll do the interview standing, you'd have had a pretty good indication there was a problem.
Now, what do you get out of this kind of work? I mean, I know you can make a living at it, but what kind of, I call it the psychic income, but what kind of...
That's a good way to put it. It is psychic income. It quiets me. In order to get to this point, you've got to be quiet.
Yeah.
And it quiets my soul.
I bet. That's great. Now, when Spike Is he always on? Are they always in the back of their mind looking for that smell or smelling for that smell, I guess?
Well, they are all wolves in the end because they came from the wolf. And a wolf's natural cycle, at least by the best reading I've been able to do, is 3 days hunting and 1 day eating. So yes, they are always on. They are always thinking about what can I eat now, because it might be 3 days. And yes, even your well-fed pug on the living room couch that is probably 20 pounds overweight is still thinking in terms of, I might not eat for 3 days, what can I eat now?
Okay,
So yes, in that sense, they are always on. He's always looking for an opportunity to earn kibbles.
Okay.
To hunt.
Now that doesn't mean, and I'll do this so that folks don't think that you're somehow starving the dog while you're training them, because I don't imagine that's how it works.
No, not at all.
No,
they're well fed. However, I'm glad you bring that point up. It's a pet peeve of mine, and that is America, pets in general, we overfeed them and we feed them the wrong things. A dog should have a good trim line. You should be able to make a distinction between his abdomen and his leg, or his thigh, and usually we don't.
Yeah, the barrels we see walking down with 4 little stumps sticking off them are not healthy dogs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this goes for all dogs, but no, we don't starve them at all. But they're not eating filet mignon either.
Yeah.
You know. Now on a good day he does get a bacon strip. You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But no, they're well fed, but always on. A hungry dog is an eager dog.
I guess maybe, you know, and we'll stray a little bit from sort of the scent side of it, but what is that good quality dog food? Is it a vegetable product? Is it a protein meat product, or what?
It really, that is such a personal choice.
Okay.
I do have a product. I use a particular product. It comes in a red and white bag, and you can get it at PetSmart. But that is a personal choice of mine. As long as you're satisfied with the end result of the dog, if he has a regular bowel movement after each meal, and it basically looks like a Tootsie Roll, then everything's
just fine.
Probably okay. Don't be alarmed if your dog eats a little grass. People will say, oh, his stomach is upset. Dogs are omnivorous, like bears. They will eat grasses, wheats, berries, tomatoes.
Yeah, that's why I asked about protein versus grain, because there's this whole other, I don't know, there's a whole contingent out there now that's saying, oh, you don't feed your dog any grains, it's all meat. Well, maybe, but...
I would ask myself first what I'm feeding myself and my children. To get back to that, though, I use generally a grain-based dry dog food for my own purposes.
Okay.
I'll use a can of wet Blue Buffalo on occasion as a reward, but generally a dry dog food. It's better for their teeth, and I find it to be more consistent for their bowel movements.
Okay.
But that's a personal choice.
And you mentioned that Spike is kind of morphing into pet for you. Does he sleep in the house with you, or is he out in a kennel? Or?
He sleeps in a kennel.
Okay.
He doesn't travel outside of a kennel. If he's traveling in a vehicle, he's in a kennel. And I recommend to all your viewers, if you have a dog, don't put him on your back window.
Yeah.
For the dog's benefit, there are seat belts now available, although my granddad would probably roll over in his grave. But Spike will generally travel kenneled up. And at night, he sleeps in a kennel.
Well, and it's safer for them, too, in the vehicle, because if something happens in the vehicle, emergency personnel can grab that box, and they don't have to find this.
And there's less likelihood of them, spinning like a top, breaking a leg or two, or what have you. And although I like Spike a lot, I'm not sure I'd spend that much money on him.
When you go out to sniff for bed bugs, do you generally have an idea? I mean, are you kind of thinking, okay, this place is going to have them because of what the owner of the establishment, whether it's a hotel or a home, has told you, or? Yeah,
you can sometimes get an idea of what's what's ahead of you based on if it's an apartment building, if you've had previous hits in other apartments in that building, or a hotel room where you've had a previous problem.
Will the bugs go kind of room to room?
Oh, yes.
Oh, they will?
travel.
Okay.
So if you treat one room, you cannot spot treat bed bugs.
Okay.
If your house has a bed bug problem, you need to treat the entire home. And you need to treat the entire home using a qualified, certified pest control operator. There are some old home remedies. I would not recommend any of them for a variety of reasons. I would strongly recommend using a qualified, certified pest control operator.
Yeah, I was doing my typical online surfing around looking at this, and I immediately learned that bed bugs are like all those other small bugs that we consider nuisances. The closer you look at them, the less you want to see. They're an incredibly ugly bug.
They're an ugly stick bug, and that's the big deal about bed bugs is the ick factor. 50% of the people that are bitten by bed bugs will never know it.
That's what I understood also.
And that's a low estimate. Some scientific minds will tell you that it's an even greater number. However, if you are one of those 50 or one of those 3, regardless of whose number you listen to, it can be uncomfortable and scary. Insurance companies, for the most part, have reacted in a positive fashion. In fact, that's what spurred the first bedbug dog. My partner, Bill Wittstein, and I had been approached by an insurance company after they'd had a bad infestation in a hotel and a lawsuit.
Oh.
And they had said then that, we use dogs for drugs, accelerants, cadaver dogs. Can we use it for bed bugs? And we, of course, took some time. It took about 2 years to develop and prove.
Wow.
Proof of concept. But after that point, we said, yeah, we can do this successfully, and have been producing quality dogs since.
That's great. Now, how can folks look up and discover about the work you're doing?
Go to bedbugdog.com.
Oh, I love that. Nice and easy to remember.
You can also go to FloridaCanineAcademy.com.
Okay.
And that site, or those sites, will have links, and actually Google it. It's amazing.
Okay.
There are more bugs out there than people realize.
Oh, yes.
But if you take the precautionary steps, if you're a college student, don't share furniture. If the senior from this year is graduating, don't take his bed.
Don't take his bed. Yep, that's right. Call Spike in first.
Or call Spike in first. And unfortunately, starving college students they have other areas that they'd rather spend their money.
They'd rather be sniffing for something else.
Perhaps so, yes.
Well, Mark Graham, it's been a pleasure having you, and Spike, I'm glad you relaxed to such an extent. It's been great learning about all of this.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity.
Appreciate it, Mark. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me. I'm Mike Taylor here on Tammy's Window on Calaveras. And as I said, she'll be back with you next time. But until then, thanks for joining us.